I don't believe there's a moment, Daniel, that makes you a transition. What I do believe is that every event, every situation in your life prepares you for the next thing in your life. But I always tell people, do whatever you can to get your mentor, your teacher, your coach that you work consistently with, because consistency is the key to success.
Hey, welcome to another super episode. I'm so fired up to be having a great individual that I met at a high net worth event. And I remember the very first time we started having a conversation, he said, I charge multi-million pounds, to help people become multi-millionaires and even billionaires. I'm like, what? Interestingly. And I said, I want to have you on the podcast because what the Wealth and Business podcast is all about helping people make those transition in their life. Rome was not built in a day, they say. So I'm so super fired up to be having Tony J. Selimi on the podcast. And just a little bit about this individual. He's written multiple books. He's an author. He's a transformational business and life coach. He's also specialized in helping human behaviors. And he's a leadership trainer, a leadership speaker. His accolades goes on and on and on. And he's a British Entrepreneur of the Year 2022. And I can go on and on. Without further ado, my man, Mr. Tony, how are you today? Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for this honor to be able to serve more people. I'm extremely well, and I'm very grateful.
Now, I can go on and on talking about all your different accolades. I want you to do me justice and literally let's get people to really see who you truly are. Because when your accolades becomes too many like that, how many can I go through? If you don't mind just kind of helping me just deconstruct your bio, who you are and your great achievements.
Well, as a human being, since I was a child, I was curious about understanding spirituality and also understanding life and understanding the mysteries of life. So I wanted to understand science, chemistry, biology, and various disciplines, various religions. And truly, I really wanted to understand the universe and who we are as part of the universe, who we are as part of the bigger picture. And how is it that, some people have wealth, other people don't have wealth. Some people have privileges, other people don't have privileges. So, I observed those inequalities in a society from a very young age and why men and women are different, for instance. And I used to ask all of those big questions from age 5. So, asking those curious questions, it's something that it's been with me all my life and still is because, life and God and universe is massive. And I approach it with extreme openness and also curiosity to learn every single day and invest in learning, frankly, and knowledge. But, as a child, I had a great family. I was the youngest of 6. Grew up in North Macedonia, speaking multiple languages, and also I ended up being ill. I was physically abused. I was bullied. I almost died in hospital. Then my parents took me to all these incredible spiritual teachers and healers who then brought me back to life, saved my life. And then, I started university, one of the top engineering universities in Croatia. And then the civil war fell upon us and all of my dreams got shattered once again. And pretty much I saw atrocities no teenager should witness that, and no parents should witness for their children to be murdered like that for ideology, for extremism, for nationalism, racism, and the whole thing. So, fast forward, overcoming so many different challenges, my life was safe and I ended up homeless on the streets of London, feeling abandoned, rejected, powerless. I didn't speak the language. I didn't have no kind of support. I didn't have no friends. I simply was grieving on the streets for a few months.
Wow. Interesting journey you've had. You've been basically abused. You have been in the streets of London confused. I totally connect for the fact that you say, your English language wasn't the greatest. Because I'm Nigerian descent. I mean, not Nigerian descent. I relocated from Nigeria way back. And at the end of the day, came to this country. I did not speak English language the way people speak English language here. And I had to learn my way through. And I can literally dive into all your different adversity you've already shared. So what was the pivotal moment for you to have made this transition? So you had all these different things. A lot of people always struggle not to make this transition. How did it all change for you?
I don't believe there's a moment, Daniel, that makes your transition. What I do believe is that every event, every situation in your life prepares you for the next thing in your life.
Yes.
Which means, it's very difficult when people say to me, how do you transition? Well, you haven't spent 40 years through overcoming struggle after struggle, challenge after challenge, and every single pain that one can throw at you, and still you wake up, stand up, and move forward again. And every time you fail, you get up and move forward again. And then you have this commitment to learning, to knowledge, and investing, truly understanding reality, understanding how you are creating and are part of that reality. So, it's difficult to pinpoint one moment because every moment, every struggle gives you new knowledge, new awareness, new experiences, new thoughts, new beliefs, new values, new opportunities, and new things for you to solve more problems in your life. And I think the more problems you solve, the more challenges you overcome, the more that wisdom comes out of you. But also the key element is I never stopped learning. I never stopped investing proportion of my income into learning, into training, into coaching, and I still do. So, although most people think you don't need it nowadays, I said no, because my dreams are infinite. The kind of vision I'm building in the background, I need the best mentor who can focus me on what I'm doing. Because, when you have so much knowledge, it also becomes very difficult. It can work against you. So I'm extremely detailed person, and I have plans, and the same thing I do with all of my clients. The mind is this wonderful puzzle that I love solving. So, and my background in engineering and organizational behavior and human behavior and emotional intelligence loves to be able to organize people's mind in a way so their life becomes organized, their business becomes organized, their relationships are organized, their emotional intelligence is organized, and they can use those God-given abilities in the most effective and efficient way to create the results they want.
Interesting, you're saying about organizing your life, organizing your business, organizing your emotions, organizing all of these things. I am of the school of thought that actually very, 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 intensively say this all the time. Unless we fix the within, we can't fix the outside. So if you don't fix your inside, you cannot manifest anything. You cannot create anything. Whatever you believe in, it's not going to come through if you don't fix the inside. How does this, really help entrepreneurs out there? How can entrepreneurs literally fix the inside? Because from what I've just heard from you, you've spoken about some very technical things here, fixing all these different belief systems that comes from the within. And this is one of the reasons why you're a very successful coach. This is one of the reasons why you're a very successful entrepreneur, because you can't give what you don't have. So how did you fix yours, and how can others fix theirs?
Well, as I mentioned, I'm an individual who, since a very young age, consistently invested in learning. So a value of mine, which is great, is about knowledge. It's about learning. It's about solving problems. So, most people in my position, they would have ended up being drunk or have no life, considering the losses that I've incurred through my life. And you as a migrant yourself, you can understand that. Not only that, but then when we come to a safe country like Britain, they make our lives even more difficult. And, you have to then overcome those challenges by people who know nothing about your background and the losses you experience. And on top of that, you have to find a way to break through those walls that other people put in front of you just because you are a migrant, just because you are a different color, just because you are a different creed, just because you are a different religion. So, as humanity, we're not really making it easy for people to thrive, to shine, to bring their gifts out there. We are far behind on a conscious level for we to become humans who lift everybody up. All you have to do is what's been happening in this country for the last few years since Brexit happened, for instance. Evil surfaced. You know, when you have certain leaders and certain people who polarize the nation, you know, people turn against each other. We become animals. So, you know, for you to master that animal inside of you and that angel inside of you, you definitely need support and help. Yes, you can do with books. Yes, you can do with training. But the biggest gift I've given myself is work 3 to 5 jobs and work with some of the best trainers in the world. Why? Because when you work one-to-one, that person focuses on you, doesn't focus on a one-to-many. One-to-many is great. It's part of your strategy for your growth. But I always tell people, do whatever you can to get your mentor, your teacher, your coach that you work consistently with, because consistency is the key to success, the key to growth, the key to knowledge, the key to improved memory, the key to better physical well-being, the key to better emotional intelligence, the key to better leadership, the key to creating things. So if I wrote my first book and I stopped writing, I wouldn't have 6 books. Last night, I finished my 7th book, which is going to be published early next year. And it's all about entrepreneurship, how to build using a 12-step formula that I've created for the last 30 years and applied it in business, applied it in my business, and applied it in my clients. So therefore, I created proven methodology for taking people, building businesses and becoming successful entrepreneurs with philanthropy attached to it, with purpose attached to it. But at the same time, we are in business to make profits. And most people don't know all the different skills they need to learn. You know, for me, I invested everything I had to learn different skills because back then, you know, my career was in technology, being the best guy to manage multi-million and sometimes multi-billion pound technology transformation programs, both back-end and front-end. And on top of that, develop and manage people and teams. And on top of that, improving my public speaking skills. And on top of that, improving my presentation skills and all those different skills that over the years now I use to help my clients achieve incredible results.
Wow. Tony, you're on fire right now. You're setting me on fire right now. I really love your use of words and I really love your use of knowledge and expression. So at the beginning of this episode, there are key things I just want to take us backwards so we don't, you know, so we can slow down a little bit and maybe come forward. You spoke about life. You spoke about God. You spoke about spirituality. You spoke about working with healers. You spoke about pain. You spoke about tests and you spoke about problems. And you say all these different things basically, all right, is what gives us the transformation because you don't transform, all right? You don't just transform. You go through life experience by acknowledging all these different, you know, things I've just mentioned, and then you make a transformation. So for me, what I got from there is that it's not, the end goal is not success. The end goal is the journey. As you're going through this journey, you're successful. As you're going through this journey, you're enjoying the moment. As you're going through this journey, you're going through your challenges. And because you've worked on yourself, because you have coaches, mentors, people who are guiding you, then you are not sitting there to become, you know, people go through these things sometimes and they become substance, you know, they start using substance, they misuse substance and they end up wasting their life. But you're saying, no, actually, when you go through this process, you're making the transition and then success become a normal thing to you. Correct?
Yes. I mean, I'll give you a metaphor that rings to everybody. So let's say we take somebody who's homeless. Okay? And yes, we take that homeless man and we take him to Primark. And say, okay, shop whatever you want. And they do and everything else. And they're very joyful because going from homeless to Primark, they'll go like, oh my God, I've got clothes, I've got clean clothes and everything else. So they're very grateful in that moment. But then you take that homeless and take them to Selfridges. And you say, okay, buy all of those things. Suddenly, they know exactly that the value of Primark and Selfridges is different. They know the quality is different and they want it. So, you know, we are human beings that consistently are evolving and want to better ourselves, whether it's through clothing, whether it's through food, whether it's through the mind, whether it's through knowledge, skills, business, lifestyle, everything else. So, you know, everybody has the capability and the desire to have more. So, that desire never stops. That's why when people ask me, how long do I need to work with you, Tony? My question is, how far do you want me to take you? Just think about that. And then also, when people say, oh, you're too expensive, great, go to Primark, go to beginner coaches and spend 10 years with them. Then when you're ready, you come and invest with me. It's an investment in you. It's not in me. It's in your dreams, in your goals, in everything. And people who value that, they will get the best coach and they'll put the money there. So because they know they're going to get the best wisdom in a much shorter time. And also they don't have to go through the process of trial and error. So, when you go at a bigger level, you want to have a better coaches, better mentors, better clothes, better anything. So whether we like it or not is how life is set up. And therefore we have to go through the journey to get there. So, consistently I upgraded my schools, my universities, my knowledge, my work, my business, my skills, my leadership skills, and I continuously do so. Why? Because life will reflect back at me exactly the growth that I have achieved within myself. So if I want more growth, therefore I need to invest more. You don't go to bank and say, I want money when your bank account is empty. That's as simple as that. You go to the bank because you already invested in the bank. So when you invest in your own education, in your own training, in building your skills, whether it's like, most people write books and never become successful. As simple as that. So, instead of going to a coach who's done it there, been there before, sold million copies of their books, they know the avenues, they know how to expand the reach and everything else. People try to do it themselves because they perceive they don't have the money. They perceive. Because when we value something, we go and get 5 jobs out there and we do it. That's what I've done. I've consistently worked 4 or 5 jobs to go and work with the best people out there and went to the best training. If you look at my history and in my books, I share them openly. I share all of my mentors, all of my coaching, all of my training, all of my education, everything that I have. So when people come to me and say, oh, I'm like you, a coach, I said, really? So have you been in the army? No. Have you got a dual degree? No. Have you managed billion technology transformation programs? No. Have you managed the risks of 10 billion pounds? No. Have you done this? No. So how are you like me, a coach? People need to step back and be where they are, not projecting outwardly what they want to see. So, investment in yourself is the greatest investment that will bring the biggest dividends over a lifetime. It's not one thing. And if you truly want something, you will find the money. You will find a way for you to do the work. If you're not, then stay where you are. But, your own being, those voices that we experience inside of yourself will not let you alone until you take action. So I'm somebody who I've consistently taken action, consistently invested, and therefore people see the end result. Me going around the world and teaching in a fabulous location, working with different clients from different perspectives. I do the vital planning 5-day training, and most people think he's on holiday. I created a lifestyle business. I wanted to travel. I wanted to teach. I want to explore cultures. I want to be involved in different projects and help people become philanthropic leaders, which are prosperous and their businesses are growing. So they serve more people. And money is nothing more than you going out there solving problem after problem after problem after problem after problem after problem. And you become great at solving specific problems. Most people have delusions around money and around mindset of money. So, you can't be your own teacher, frankly. Why? Because, we wouldn't have this camera, this mirror, if we could see without a mirror. If we just take that as a basic, then we definitely understand the importance of education, of mentors, of coaches, of trainers, of therapists, of healers, of leaders, of business owners, people who employ us, and all of that. Our mothers, our fathers, our children. So, children learn from parents. But then the question becomes, how clean is that mirror?
Interestingly, I'm so blown away by this conversation because everything just making sense to me now. Because what I had, before interviewing you today, I've also interviewed 8-figure business owner based in Australia. And exactly what you're saying now, self-development, self-investment, investing in coaches, investing in mentors. I mean, I started to invest in coaches and mentors to got me where I am now to have the success that I have. And I've come to also notice it that, I've actually tell a great details in my new book about self-development, investment, but people naturally just perceive that, in this pursuit of greatness, for those who want it, there is this thing about, I can't afford it. There's this thing about, it's expensive. Recently, I stopped, in the last 2 years now, I don't really say, oh, it's expensive, I can't afford it. I stopped doing it. It's, okay, how can I afford it? And I go and afford it. And based on what you're saying here, every single successful person I've had on this podcast, when it comes to self-development, it boils down to one thing. In my book, I say pay to play. Maybe in your word, there might be a different way you want to explain it. But paying to play means self-development. Paying to play means being in a room with you for someone like you who has trained, multi-million business owners and, billionaires and so on and so forth. So for you, how can people really start to change? What is it that people need to do to change the mindset of, I can't afford it? And how can people change their mindset of, I'm going to go and really get it and become successful?
Have you ever seen a couple who are living an average life, they get engaged and they need a diamond ring? Have you been next to a couple like that?
Well, I have
But they don't have the money to buy it.
I have seen people get in debt for weddings. I have seen people
So they get in a debt for a wedding. They're going to get a debt to buy that ring. And why is that?
For me, I just feel it's the lack of loss.
No. I want you to go back into the mindset. I want you to go back why people would behave like that. What is it that makes them do that?
For me, I would say because they're trying to just please their ego.
But no. At the moment you're giving me the words, what people give me. So because you don't understand psychology, you haven't studied 30 years psychology. So that's why I know that you can't give me the answer. So therefore, you only will give me the answer of making sense in your brain and the brain firing up at me just premeditated sentences that doesn't have the depth of where that knowledge comes from. This is what most people do, by the way, Daniel. So for instance, if I go into a conversation with a scientist, I can go into a depth of conversation because I'm a scientist myself. Okay? But if I go into a conversation with a mother who gave birth, I'll lose myself because I'm not a mother and I have no idea what the experience of birth is. Because my body cannot experience that. So therefore, I'll be saying things that I've learned from YouTube, from wherever, from my mother, from people I've heard about how painful it is. But in reality, I don't know nothing about it. So, me investing in studying psychology is what I do with my clients. I reshuffle their brains and also instill knowledge. So therefore, their statements are true to themselves and to others. And they know why people behave the way they behave. So that's why I'm an expert in behavioral science. That's why people come to me, because I can transform the entire psychology so the same behaviors don't apply. So, the scarcity mindset was in the Unfakeable Code. I wrote 2 books during COVID. Most people gave in to conspiracy theories during COVID, but some people actually did a lot of work, and I'm one of them. My business grew 4 times during COVID. Why? Because all these big people out there ended up with a lot of big problems that I could help them solve. So I didn't stop during COVID, but most people lived their lives with no preparation. So me working in technology, one thing I was in charge was disaster recovery plan. So every year I have to update those plans in case something goes wrong, in case of earthquake, in case of fire, in case of bomb, in case of, COVID. So therefore, when I started my business, Daniel, which is in 2012, so it's 11 years now fully that I'm dedicated to my business, but I started before that, 3 years before, while I was still working in technology. I made sure that I have disaster recovery plans. If something goes wrong, how do I act and how do I plan? Most people have no plan for their life, no plan for their finances, no plan for their mental growth, no plan for their emotional mastery, no plan for their relationships, no plan for their detailed vision and the end in mind they want to create. And then part of that plan is, what if things don't go according to the plan? So most people don't have the disaster recovery plan if something goes wrong in their life. And they just become reactive creatures. So therefore, you go back to your amygdala responses, and then amygdala response, which is a fear response. So you fight, you flight, you freeze, or as I say it, you say. So I invented the fourth one, and I share it in my books, and I share it with billionaire clients and millionaire clients. I said, this is a tiny moment, tiny second where you don't freeze, you don't flight, you don't fight, you say, and excuse my language, but that's how we as animalistic beings respond. But then we go and regret things. So most people don't have those skills. They have not invested properly to work with somebody who pretty much reorganizes your mind. So, my vital planning, it's, if you have seen what I do with my clients, it's like covered, like an Einstein. So my clients call me, you are the Einstein of the brain and life and business. Why? Because I thrive on solving problems. I thrive in making sense of how this person's psychology works and how we can dissect all of that and rebuild it in a way that creates the result for them.
So, correct me if I'm right or wrong. As an entrepreneur, let me use myself as an example, right? So that it's quite clear to the listeners. As an entrepreneur, from what I can see from this conversation and where this conversation is going, is you're saying we have to fix the mind, we have to fix how we think, we have to fix every other thing that dwells within us first before even trying to have a business. Because if we don't fix all these different things, all right, which what a lot of people do all the time, because people usually don't have a plan, all right, and then you're not gonna be able to create the life that you truly want. That's what I'm hearing from this. Now,
so basically, they will go through a lot of problems, and therefore most people will end up failing. Most people will have mental issues, emotional issues. Their marriage will break. I've met people in trying to build a business that they forgot about the family totally. So therefore, it led to divorce, to cheating, to all sorts of things. I've been through those stages myself, and I know exactly the consequences of cause and effect. So, you might want to do this. You might fix yourself, or if you call the word fix, I don't use those words, by the way. I use things, reorganizing your mind and upgrading your mind, or you can do it in parallel. You can do both. If you really, something is important to you. So going back to the conversation earlier on, when somebody values something, there's nothing that will stop you creating it. Meaning, if you truly value your dreams, there's nothing that will stop you paying the best experts to help you. So you will find and ask yourself the question, how do I make this happen? So, I have some of my clients who introduced 10 clients and they got, 50% discount from me. But they had to introduce 10 clients first. So therefore, they made it affordable for them in their budget mind. But you can't get things without nothing. And most people have this skewed perception that, they want value, but they are nowhere match in a value. Nowhere match. I see all these LinkedIn people using sophisticated systems to build their businesses, but they're all fake. Why? Because they are fake. They don't know anything about me. So, for example, somebody who sells tomato and I'm a diamond and they're trying to say to me, tomato is more valuable than a diamond. Well, it doesn't work like that. You can't go in any shop in the world with a tomato and say, can you give me a diamond? Here's a tomato.
No.
And that's what those sophisticated systems do. They don't really know the person at all. So I'm talking about in all of my books, especially in the last book, which is specifically for entrepreneurs and business owners, that certain practices that they do in business go against the laws of nature. There's value in everything in life. The question is, most people don't know what the value they offer. So if you have invested in you, and for instance, all of my clients, they're worth gross working with me. Why? Because the same proportion of money they invest in themselves to work with me, suddenly they'll get it from somewhere else. Which means they are honoring the law of fair exchange. It's a universal law for all of us.
Wow. So let's
people don't really know those things, so therefore they can't build wealth. They can try as much as they want. They build a bit and they lose it. I've seen people going with bitcoins and this and that, and oh, I made millions. Where are they? Is they in your account? Oh no, it's in bitcoins. And then, oh, I lost it all. People need to start thinking about the delusions and the lies they tell themselves. And only a great coach can hold them accountable.
Wow. Interestingly, you said the law of nature, and you spoke about spirituality. Now, what are these two vital? Because you seem to have a lot of vast experience. You said at the beginning of this conversation, you said you've worked with healers, you worked with spiritual, you sorted your spiritual mindset, your spiritual awareness, and now you spoke about the laws of nature. How important all these different vital things, in a life as an entrepreneur, as a business person, how important are all these things?
100% essential if you want to grow as a human being, then as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as a father, as a brother, as a friend, as a business owner. All of those things are, we're not part of nature, we are nature. But we become blinded to what nature teaches us. We become totally blinded, not just nature, but also science. And, you have now more and more the science have been updated and upgraded. And people want superficial knowledge. Superficial knowledge will give you superficial results. As simple as that. For instance, look what happened with the people with the exploration of the Titanic. A billionaire and his son died. Okay? So forget about the money. People can make decisions that later on they will regret it. Because this is when, when you don't have and reorganize your body, your mind, your heart, your soul in a way to be able to channel this power, God-given power. If you don't believe in God, it could be universe, it could be intelligence, it could be whatever persists in your head. And then some people, the moment they get a bit of wealth, they lose it. They totally lose it. That part of themselves becomes very evil, by the way. So most people, when they tell to me, oh, money is evil. No. There's nothing wrong with money. It's the person who's using that money for whatever reason. There's nothing wrong with anything around us. It's how we perceive what's outside of us. So in changing your own mirror, the mirrors that you see outside will change. So
Wow. I'm getting so much value from this. Let's
you know why people work with me, Daniel, because you met one of my clients. So, Dr. Emanuele now has a book, and with that book, now he can reach hundreds of millions of doctors around the world. Yes, he invested a lot of money to work with me. Yes, maybe his parents helped me with all of that, but he's on track to what he wants to create. And I've helped him. He did not know what he wanted to create when we started working 7 years. 7 years ago, we were going through mental, emotional problems, facing all the problems, frustrations, and burnout at work, relationship issues. But within a year, I saw where I could take him. And therefore, with every 5-day training he did, because it's a very exclusive one-to-one, you get this wisdom for 8 hours a day. Your brain transforms, changes. There's no option but to change. First, you're not going to invest that kind of money for you to sit in there and do nothing with it. You invest it because part of you wants big things to happen. And you want it. I don't need to convince anybody. I'm here.
Wow.
So?
Wow. So let's quickly talk about your books. So you wrote a book called The Path to Wisdom, and then you wrote The Path to Excellence, and then you wrote The Path to Unforgettable Code, and then you wrote, you wrote The Loneliness.
You got them wrong, by the way, but I will tell you. So the first book I wrote, it's A Path to Wisdom. So the book was written when basically after the financial crash 2008. So this part of me all my life that I've been searching for solution and to integrate spiritual intelligence with material intelligence and being able to be of greater service to the corporate world to bring mindfulness and all of those things, healing and all of that to as many people as possible, was not expressed properly in my tech career. So part of me wanted, the tech career gave me a lot of knowledge on one hand, but it didn't give me platform for the other part of me, the healer in me, the mentoring me, the coaching me, the psychologist in me to be able to go and help more people. So, you have a framework that you need to work around your job spec, and that's it, basically. You can do a little. So I wanted to integrate all of those lessons and create a new way of thinking for people to create new paradigms for them to create the reality they want. So, when I found myself almost again homeless after 20 years of investing in myself, saying, why am I in this repeated pattern? Why my life depends on somebody giving me a job? Why my income is limited where my value to others is limitless? So, I worked with so many different companies, helped them create a lot of money, but I was given very, very tiny proportion of that. So the financial crisis woke me up to that, how little self-worth I had in myself and little confidence. So this is where I upped my game and went to the top billionaires to help me see what I wasn't seeing. That's what mentors and coaches do. But if you're working with somebody who is at your level, they're going to only project at you what you want to see. They're not going to project at you what they are and what you can become. There's a difference. So I wanted to help people, first and foremost, with 3 big problems that globally people have in every company that I work. One is people lost that work-life balance. 2, people were ill. With anxiety, depression, emotions, relationship problems, conflicts, anger, addictions, all of those things that, attack you without you even being aware of it. Just silently, they go through your body, and most people don't listen to the alarm within thyself of what the body is giving you feedback, what you need to change. So, and the third one is most people did not have inner peace. That's why people go to temples, they go to religion, they go and pray, they do meditation to find that inner peace. And I wanted to solve those 3 problems. So with those 3 problems, then I went and expanded. I said they apply to our spiritual self, mental, emotional, physical body, applies to our career and profession and business, applies to wealth, applies socially, and applies most importantly in your relationship with self and with your loved ones and in your family. So all of those things applies to all of them, and depend where you are, it can cause a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, and a lot of disconnect. So then I put all of my knowledge together and I created the alarm methodology. An alarm is simply one of the most sophisticated ways to understand thyself in all of those 8 areas of life, and understanding your trauma, understanding your inner child, the different states of your inner child, understanding every part of your growth, your 8 key areas of growth, and where you are tells you about you and what you need to do. And therefore giving people a tool, a methodology with 25 principles in a 5-step method for them to find balance, to find inner peace, and to bring their physiology in perfect health. So the moment I released the book, it went viral. And therefore I started getting clients who needed those things. And, when people say bestseller, yes, you can get a good market and you can make it bestseller, but bestseller doesn't mean a success. Yeah. There's so much more behind that creates a lot of success. So now the more I was doing this work, and then I launched my Vital Planning, where I can take one sentence from every book and expand it in 5 days. And I'm talking about one sentence, one concept. And there are hundreds of thousands of concepts in my books. So suddenly, just when I wrote the first book, I hired one of the best book coaches. So I didn't try to do it myself, but I hired one of the best book coaches. And therefore I paid a lot of money. And then I used my intelligence with her intelligence together. And then I started creating the framework that I needed to share with the world so they can follow it in easy step. Now, the more I was going around doing the Vital Planning, doing speaking engagement, doing training, the more clients I was getting, the more quality clients I was getting, people who were valuing the knowledge, the wisdom I had to share. And then I observed a big problem. So when I was working in the city of London or other corporations, how loneliness, we are becoming more and more lonely. The more the technology was evolving, the more lonely the people were becoming. And that created a whole new problem for me to solve. So then I started and going at the depth of loneliness, understanding it from a scientific perspective, getting in touch with people who are experts in the world about loneliness, hiring them, picking up their brains, and then putting all of my ideas together, how to tackle this virus of the modern age that through social media, through apps, through technology is spreading across the consciousness and creating a lot of problems. And therefore duality, and therefore also I started writing about artificial intelligence before people now making it trendy. So I was 7 years ahead.
And that gave you your second book.
That gave me the second book, which is #Loneliness, the virus of modern age. And on the basis of that, I met the organizer of TED, who opened the book exactly on one of the chapters called Technological Armageddon, a wake-up call. And he went like, you're going to do a TED Talk. So I went and do the TEDx talk that is now also on a TED platform. And it has more than 1 million views. Out of that came many other opportunities. And then COVID happened.
So let me stop you there for a minute. Come on now, Tony. Whoa. So we went through this part of self-discovery, all right, with spiritual intelligence that gave birth to the path to wisdom. Then that became a huge success, launching you to help people, in their various industry to understand the importance of spiritual intelligence. And then...
And science, by the way, not just spiritual intelligence, and science, and neuroscience, and psychology.
And then you discover loneliness, which again, it's a big problem. Because
big problem.
I always say this, like, this journey of being an entrepreneur to be trying to build a 7-figure business, 8-figure business, 10-figure business is very, very lonely. And you couldn't, I haven't read, by the way, I haven't read any of your books, but I just ordered your Path to Excellence. The day I ordered it was the day you actually won the award in the US. Yeah. So I saw it on your Instagram that your book has won an award. I basically ordered it. It's on the shelf there. Yeah. So I ordered it. And, I ordered it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to read this, but I've been so busy. I haven't actually read it, but I'm going to personally go back to actually buy your entire books, because you're very correct. There are all these different components that we need to fix in order for us to run create a successful business. So your wisdom book gave birth to your loneliness book.
#loneliness. There's a reason, by the way, it's a hashtag. It's the first book in the world with a hashtag in front of it.
And that was what I want to come to. Yeah. So you hashtag loneliness, the virus of modern age.
Yep. This is the age when we started using hashtags for the first time in 2015. So, for me, I was with a client while we were doing this, and the original title was The Science of Loneliness. Because, I have scientific background. So therefore, for me, everything needs to be based on science, but also on spirituality. So because I wanted to blend those two things. So because we are both, we're not separate. And the more people I help to understand how to integrate those things, the more successful they can become. So, as I was working with a client, I pressed delete by mistake. And then it was hashtag that I actually pressed. And from the science of loneliness, it went into #loneliness. And then my client said to me, okay, I dare you to publish a book with a hashtag in front. And I said, don't dare me, because I do it. So, I listened to my intuition and wrote it down because there was also a deeper meaning to that, because we have started living in the hashtag world and in the social media world. And most people who don't have the mindset strength to be able to handle such a powerful tool, it can affect them. They can, a lot of people, children have become anxious. They've developed depression, anxiety. They've developed different addictions because of certain social media apps. When you compare yourself with 7 billion people.
Wow. So now, how did we not get into the third book? Because obviously I named all your books in a different format, but you've actually gone how one gave birth to the other and then the other. So what was the third book?
Fit for Purpose Leadership. This book I basically co-authored with Andrew Priestley. And my role in the book was I wanted to speak about the pressures leaders are going through. Because, I work with leaders of top companies such as Microsoft, Gap. We're talking about Deutsche Bank. We're talking about all the different CEOs of some of the top companies in the world. And the one common problem all of them had, one is about time. Two was burnout. They all like working extraordinary long hours, something I did in technology. And three, pretty much having pressure coming home. So pressure at work, pressure at home leads to burnout. It doesn't lead to anything else. So I wanted to talk about the psychology of burnout and how people can come out of it and being able to have a more mindful way of leading. And therefore increasing their productivity, their performance, and all of that. And out of that, then the next book was about my spirituality. So with a group of European famous authors, I wanted to publish my first 12 spiritually channeled poems. So I started that part of me, poetry, which in the future is going to go into 12 different books. I'm in the background writing also poetry that has a transformational message, and also poetry that helps you every single day for 365 days to do something to grow yourself. So, and I wanted to bring this poetry into the market, and the book also received few awards, and people starting going, oh my God, they can be turned into song, into this, into that. And then COVID happened. So when the COVID happened, this is where those two books were born. I started, and I knew exactly the moment the outbreak came in China. I said this is going to go global. Even though our leaders in here played it very low, I knew exactly why, because I've studied different disciplines, and also I mentored and coached many doctors, and also I have doctors in my family, so I have some awareness about when it comes to viruses and when it comes to health and what can happen. So me being an engineer, I started predicting patterns, and I started predicting what would happen if this really goes global. So then when it happened in Italy, I said, that's it. My predictions are true, and this is what's going to happen. So I sit down and wrote down all the problems we're going to experience globally, all the problems countries will experience, all the problems the businesses and leaders will experience, and then how the employees and how the families and socially what will happen. So out of that, the Unfakeable Code was born. Why? Because we all know a lot of leaders made a lot of mistakes.
Yes.
And also a lot of people made a lot of mistakes because they did not have those plans in the background if something happens badly to them, that, they're not going to be able to go to work, and some companies will let go a lot of people during COVID. So most people relied on government support. But if they had, let's say all of them got my training, by now they all had businesses. They'll be all prosperous through COVID. So for instance, some of the businesses I helped through COVID, it was a restaurant business because they all got closed. So a couple of the restaurants, us working since COVID, they no longer have locations, by the way. We turned them all into online businesses. So now they have more work-life balance. They earn 10 times more money than before, and they don't have the overheads. But it's taken us a journey through COVID to go through all of that and build the entire business on e-commerce business. They can grow their food business. So, what I realized in there were 5 clear steps in there that helps people take back mental and emotional and financial control. But also it helps them become great, authentic leaders. And then you live your life freely on your terms. What that means is pretty much you step up in a position of fantastic greatness in you, which means you take charge of your life fully, 100%, regardless of the outer circumstances. Now, we saw what happened with one decision, Brexit, leaving the EU, and the consequences of that. So most people go into one or the other. But, if we look at a whole, we inflicted self-harm on ourselves because of an ideology behind that. And also it was based on many lies, many facts. And if we do that on our personal life, if we do that with our relationships, with our family, with our stuff, we will lose everything. So when we have leaders who give in to these fake powers and fake identities, they can impact everybody's life. We saw what happened in America with Trump. We saw what happened with other leaders. For me, it's not about being conservative of labor. It's about being a conscious leader. What do you do as a leader? What kind of vision do you have? And do you have the skills, the capability to deliver what you say? And most of the politicians, most of the leaders lie to all of us. And they project lies and they don't follow up with real action. That's why we are in the mess we are. When people ask me about Brexit, I have nothing for or against it, but the reality shows me differently. If Brexit was so good, we wouldn't have 5 prime ministers. As simple as that. First time in history we're having that. So similarly, I wanted to help people on an individual level. When we do things and we dishonor that we've done them and we lie about them and then we become deceitful and then we put them under the carpet until something big happens to us. So one of the main things in here where I talk about it is about the scarcity mind. Scarcity mind, when a big event happens, that goes out of proportion. And that's what happened during COVID, by the way. A lot of people lost their sense of identity. They lost their sense of purpose. They lost their sense of job. And then people had to be locked at home. They weren't used to that. So therefore, there was a lot of divorce, a lot of conflicts during this period. And some people made a lot of children, frankly. So there's a positive and negativity around that. And then the other part is the problem that I wanted to solve is authentic communication. Most people don't know how to authentically communicate. So there's nothing wrong with you telling somebody, you know what, I don't know about this. But you tell people, I know about this, and then your action, your behaviors don't follow up. You are deceitful. And that's why now people have lost faith in our current government. Because there are so many promises and there are so many lies. You get locked, but you have a partygate. And then you lie about it until you get caught. And you lie in our face. I mean, nowadays with social media, with video, we saw from the beginning when the accusations came out, Boris Johnson denied it in Parliament. You're denying to the whole country. And then you say, oh, it wasn't like this, it wasn't like that. This is what I'm talking about, the masks that we wear. And, that is based on a basic principle my parents taught me. Lies have short legs. Anything that starts with a lie ends badly. And therefore, somebody else will have to solve the problems. And then also, we can become vicious, we can become emotional, we can become all sorts of stuff when we respond to stressors. How do we then evolve our mind and our emotional intelligence for us to be able to make decisions and choices in the middle of the heat, which are for greater good, better for our health, better for our families, everybody else? And one of the principles, the last principles in that is very simple. If people obey to that principle, I guarantee you they'll have an amazing life. And it says, let your heart be the only military commander that wins every battle in life. Now, if you apply this principle on a government level, none of them apply that. If you apply it on a personal level, most people don't apply that in their relationships. If you apply it on all the different challenges that life throws at us, most people don't apply that. So the Unfakeable Code was all about bringing you back through your authentic self, which is angelic, which is powerful, which is kind, which is significant, and knows how to master those parts of ourselves which have those devilish behaviors when we become angry, resentful, and, all of the things that we see in ourselves and in others. So it's about mastering those energies inside of you so you become an authentic individual that goes out there and serves people with your heart being the forefront of your battle.
Wow. Tony, thank you so much for going into all of these different areas of our lives. Now, as we go towards the ending of this podcast, it's very important that we become aware. One of the things that made a massive transformation in my life so far, I am still transforming. This is one of the reasons why I wrote my second book called The Test, Transitioning from the Ordinary to the Extraordinary. Someone said to me, why did you not use the word transition? Because you've already transitioned. I said, no, you'd never transition. You keep transition because it's a journey. It's an unending journey. The day ends is the day we die.
It's a principle one in here in Path to Excellence. So if you look at it in the diagram, it calls transition. And it's an infinite journey. This is the infinite sign. So it's an infinite journey. Exactly that.
Fantastic. So, and I really love how you've brought in a lot of awareness on this podcast. You've brought a lot of awareness to us from people thinking about, change, deceit, authentic communication. I love that word, authentic communication. And I just think in this day and age, the word authenticity is basically buried. Authenticity.
It is buried because, we're looking a lot of lies. We're looking a lot of deception. We don't have any more true journalism. We have biased journalism. And, the more biased you become, the more polarized you become, the more damage you create. And therefore, at some point, those people who've done that, individuals, whatever it might be, they will have to face it. And they'll have to come up clean. And, we only face that when we face it within ourselves. When you are deceitful with yourself, it's easy somebody else to say to you, become deceitful.
Yeah, 100%. And also, you also spoke the masks that we wear, and you talk about stress. One of the things that's changed my life is especially in the last 2 years of my 6-year journey, what I'm currently doing now, is that I had to accept a lot of things around and say, you know what? If you cannot change if you're trying to create a great path to greatness. You cannot accept different things and become authentic, opening yourself up to rebuilding yourself. And this is one of the reasons why the greatest book that's ever been written, the Bible, it says, when the foundation is faulty, no matter what you put on top, it comes down.
Everything collapses.
And this is why it's so important to build this foundation. And thank you so much. You've given me so much things to literally, write on here. And I hope the audience can be able to be aware, of all these different components. And there's so many different nuggets in different angles you've come through. So now we've talked about the awareness. Just as we end towards this podcast, I just want you to not give my audience, 4 simple steps, all right, on how they can make a change. 4 simple steps on how they can make a change, or rather 4 simple steps on how they can become a transformational entrepreneur through all these different points you've mentioned: the change, deceit, authentic communication, the mask that we wear, and stress. How do we make this change?
Okay, so step number 1, it's a clear assessment of your current reality. So that's number 1. Take a pen and paper, take your computer, open up a Word document, and say, a clear assessment of my current reality, where I am. Meaning, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially, in my relationship, business, career, and your philanthropy, things you want to give back, and everything else. Write down as much as you can, looking and observing what is your reality showing to you, and being honest about it, not fantasizing about it, because I see a lot of people fantasize about it, and then when I ask a question, the reality is not there. So clear assessment of that. So if you don't have a clear assessment where you are, you'll never have a clear assessment where you want to be. So that's step number 2. So, you go a check. Now you do a check whether what you are saying in your assessment is truly what it is. Because as I said to you, this is a deep work. And if you don't do deep work, you'll miss the steps. And then the second part is looking at all of your pains. What pains you in all of those areas you just written? What is it that truly pains you? So if, being single pains you, then what you're going to do about it? If you're not having enough money pains you, what you're going to do about it? What is your ideal figure in your head that you want to have that it alleviates that pain? Is it your physical health? Is it your emotional health? Is it your communication skills, leadership skills? What is it that truly causes you pain in your life? Write down your pain first and foremost. So you have reality, and now we go one step further. One step further is what pains you in that reality. Because if we don't have big pain enough, you don't have the inspiration or the motivation for you to change it.
Amazing, Tony.
Okay. So once you see what pains you and you do detailed analysis of that, okay, then you go back the third step would be how being where you are is disadvantage to you. So this is where we reverse the psychology now. And then the fourth step is how being where you are is advantage to you.
Yes.
And most people say, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's no advantage of me not having money, not having this, not having that. Yes, it is. And then I spent about 8 hours of taking everything out of that psychology. And then suddenly I say, oh my God, now I'm free to do what I want to do. And the fifth step is after you've done all of that, sit down and write it in detail. What is your end in mind? Who have you become through the journey from where you are right now to you are 85 or 88, somewhere sitting in front of your house or on the beach or whoever with grandchildren or single or with your partner on your boat, and look back and saying how you lived your life and create that vision for the end of your life. And that should pretty much give a lot of people a lot of work to do on their own.
Wow.
They can go through all of my books. There's a lot of questions in there that can help them, from Path to Wisdom, #Loneliness, The Unfakeable Code, Path to Excellence, and do every line. Last week, 5 days with my client, we only did one chapter of this book for him to understand. One chapter, 5 days, 8 hours a day. So people who spend time in the detail and in learning, in knowledge, is who life rewards them. So don't expect to be rewarded if you do not put the time, the energy, and the money in what you tell yourself you value.
True. Money is the wealth we're looking for is all in our knowledge, is all in who are we listening to? Who are we paying attention to? I say this all the time, never go to the wrong person for the right advice. And the reason why a lot of us are stuck is because you're trying to make $1 billion. You're talking to someone who's never had $1 billion in them. Or you're trying to make $1 million. You're trying to talk to someone who's never made $1 million. And the truth is, most times, most people who have never had anything, they'll always love to give advice to people who are going somewhere. So the only thing that changes our life is never
pay for your advice. Pay.
Yeah. Pay for your advice and never go to the wrong person for the right advice. Tony,
if you want an amazing advice, pay for that advice. If you want amazing clothes, you go to Selfridges. If you want for day-to-day clothes to do your gardening, go to Primark. It does not matter. But, pay for the advice. If you don't, you're not going to get the best advice. That I guarantee you. I have plenty of experience of that. When people and friends coach you for free. No. That does not count. If you don't pay for something, you don't value it. So therefore, even the advice people give you, you're not going to value it. Until you put your sweat and the money you built and created with your sweat, you put it in something that you value. You value. So, when we pay mentors, we don't pay them, we pay ourselves.
100%, 100%. Tony, thank you so much. By the way, we're going to have all his book links on the show notes. So make sure, guys, go and grab a copy of his book. Like I said, I already got one copy of his book. I'm going to go and order the rest of his book. And in the nearest future, I'm going to look into your calendar. I want to definitely bring it to our wealth and business networking event where we usually empower entrepreneurs. I'm on a mission to raising multi-millionaires. I'm on a mission to literally helping people shift their path, create a new path for them. For me, I'm still on my journey. I want to bring as many people with me on that journey. And I want to share great individuals like yourself that I meet on this path with people who are listening to the podcast, people who are following me on social media. And I just cannot wait to all of us see each other at the top, because the ground is too crowded. We want to make that shift to get into the top. So Tony, thank you so much for being on the Wealth and Business Podcast. Thank you so much for your wisdom, for your chat. Like, I have never been this quiet, just soaking in the information from your wisdom in an episode. Thank you so much. Just before we go, is there anything that you got upcoming that you want people to kind of, reach out to you for, or just the books is fine for now?
Sure. I mean, if people have been inspired by this, by all means, they can reach out to my PA and they can book a consultation. Even if they have one consultation, they'll have an amazing advice that they can make their next step. But also I'm working on 2 new books, Climb Greater Heights, which last night I finished the first draft. So it's gone to my publishers, which is all about entrepreneurship and businesses to implement 12-step purposeful growth strategy to help them go from where they are to 7, 8, 9, 10-figure businesses and attach philanthropy to that. And also one of my latest products, this is for, I would say, people who are already 7-figure business owners, which is the chance to be featured in one of my episodes, to work with me privately for 1 year, and then transform that into a unique documentary that goes part of my documentary series called Into Your Division, which will be shared across Amazon and other streaming platforms, which helps them build their authority, credibility, but also showcasing their growth transparently with global audiences and being able to raise their profile and being able to bring their visions and their awareness about specific issue to many people. So that is only for specific successful entrepreneurs. A 7-figure, I only take few people. We just started launching because I already have 2 documentaries. So people who want to really take their impact and their visions to a whole new level, they can go on my website. They can read a lot about it. They can start reading the books. By all means, go from every book, but do the exercises. Just don't read them. Do the exercises. There's plenty of resources out there. A lot of interviews I've done. There's a lot people can learn. And those who are called to step on a journey like no other, they can reach out to my PA.
Thank you so much, Tony, for being on the Wealth and Business Podcast. Guys, see you soon. Take care on the next episode.
Bye-bye.